Greetings, fellow dragon fruit lovers. This is Paul, and today I'm going to give you an update on how the cold weather is affecting some of Leo Manuel's collection of these really old plants that I moved 6 months ago. You can see these branches that cold probably reflected off of the fence, which is a drawback of metal posts and supports trellises. But either way, you can see that the cold weather has rotted out these branches. They need to be pruned back, but upon closer inspection, there's rust. And then there's even rot down here at the base. And generally, these old plants that I moved, the ones that fruited, tend to fare worse in the winter weather. So you can see this is actually rotted down at the base. So this plant, I'll have some viable cuttings, but they did produce the fruit, so I got to evaluate it and taste it, and it was physical graffiti. But either way, it's a big bummer that some of the plants that have fruited that are really mature are not doing so well with this really cold La Nina weather we're having this season. You can see, look at some more branches I'm going to have to prune back. So moving 20-year-old plants, I've learned a few things in the past year, and that even after sitting for 4 months to 6 months and growing roots and bouncing back, you can see here's Florida Red Sweet, that most are faring well, but some of the ones that fruited heavily are getting a lot of problems with rotted branches. You can see here the new growth. But luckily, this old growth is doing just fine. Now this Larry Dodson self-fertile from Guatemala, which is rare, had one flower bud, but it aborted. But you can see no problems with rot. It's doing quite well. Now this Jim Nitzel's fence from Leo Manuel, it had produced several fruit. You can see this is happening. This branch is pretty healthy, but rust led to rot due to the cold weather. We are in the upper 30s this morning. You can see it's even rotted here. And then down the base, you can feel it's really solid, so that's a good thing. So my advice, I think, so far, if you have to move some really old plants, is that I would probably not let them fruit if you live in zone 9B where it could get really cold that winter after you move it, because this is happening. It turns rust on these really old branches, leads to rot. And then what I find interesting is the plants are kind of aborting that growth and then starting fresh growth. So you can see these really old cuttings, this is Pine Island Purple, are just not quite as resilient as I expected. Now let me go show you a few more examples up the hill. So here's another example. This is Leo Manuel's Megalanthus costarricensis hybrid, Leo's Dragon, pot K. And here's a fruit developing, and it tends to stress out the plants. They're more susceptible to the rust and pathogens that occur due to these cold, damp mornings. And that rust leads to rot. And more commonly, I get these problems on the younger branches. So moving and fruiting has stressed out these really old, mature plants that are 20 years old. You can see some more examples here. Here's a Leo's hybrid. This is, what is this? A cross Nitzel and Rixford, seedling B. And you can see that there's two really old plants here. The one that's healthy and green did not produce any fruit this season. The one on the right that's unhealthy produced several fruit. So it just really stressed them out. But this one's bouncing back, no rust. And here's its sister seedling, seedling A. Same thing. Really green, healthy growth. And this plant did produce one fruit. But it's still really healthy versus these really old, mature branches that are just more susceptible to these pathogens. And I find that really interesting. And it's happened generally to many of Leo Manuel's plants that I inherited, or purchased, I should say. But they're going to bounce back. They're not going to die. I'm not too worried about it. Now, generally, Cetaceous did fare much better. So this is Arizona Purple. Still has beautiful fruit. Not stressed out at all. And here's Leo's Neon, which did quite well in the move. Got a little sunburned and is still producing some fruit, but they're rather small. So this Neon produced a prolific amount of fruit, stressed out the plant, as you can see. And then this is Leo's Frankie's Red. And as far as I know, he had some of the oldest Frankie's Red and he distributed it. So he had 4 plants, here's 3 of them. And luckily, it did not produce any fruit. And this plant, which is very sensitive, is thriving. You can see all the new growth. Lots of new branches, it's healthy. And so my advice is if you're moving some really old plants like this, what I've learned is that the fruit, when they fruit, because they'll fruit and flower prolifically due to the stress of being moved, when they do that, I would probably remove the fruit so that way the plants can bounce back, or the flower buds actually, and give them a season to recover. So there you go. Give us a like and a subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Take care.